Have you ever felt, adrift in life? Maybe unsure how to navigate just the sheer volume of information out there.
Oh, definitely. Or the conflicting advice, the overwhelming choices we face every day.
Exactly. It's that common feeling. How do you actually live well amidst all this complexity?
Yeah, in a world just awash with data and opinions, trying to make sense of the big challenges, or even just your day to day, it can feel, well, impossible sometimes.
Well, today we're going to embark on a deep dive into some uh, truly profound wisdom. It's extracted from a really powerful and, frankly, widely discussed work, 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos.
Mhm.
Our mission really is to distill the most impactful insights from this source, to offer you a kind of direct route to understanding these ideas designed to help you confront life's, inevitable suffering and maybe carve out a meaningful existence.
And what's so interesting about these rules, as they're called, is where they came from. It's quite surprising.
Yeah.
They actually started as answers on Quora. You know the website.
Hmm?
Someone asked, what are the most valuable things everyone should know?
Oh, simple question.
Right. And the initial answers were just these short maxims like be grateful in spite of your suffering, but they really resonated with people. The author, he'd previously written this very complex academic book, Maps of Meaning, and even did a radio show criticizing the pursuit of happiness.
Right, I remember that connection.
Yeah, and that radio show apparently led a literary agent to suggest, hey, maybe you should write a practical guide on, how to live well.
And it's pretty amazing how those short core of thought just blossomed into these really extensive essays for each rule, simply because, as he put it, there was just much more to say about each.
And zooming out a bit, the core premise here is pretty fundamental. Life, it argues, demands ordering principles.
Ordering principles.
Yeah, because without them, chaos otherwise beckons. The book argues that true meaning isn't found in just rigid order or in pure, overwhelming chaos.
Yeah.
Instead, it's right there on that dividing line between order and chaos.
That border territory.
Exactly. That's the dynamic space where you are, and I'm quoting here, simultaneously stable enough, exploring enough, transforming enough, repairing enough, and cooperating enough. It's finding that balance, that sweet spot where life kind of justifies its own inherent suffering.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, that framing.
Right.
So let's dive into the first one then. Rule 1, stand up straight with your shoulders back. And you might think, okay, posture, right? Good posture. But it goes way deeper. It starts, kind of surprisingly, with lobsters.
Yeah, lobsters. It's a fascinating starting point, really. The source gets into the deep biological roots here, looking at dominance hierarchies.
Dominance hierarchies.
Like lobsters.
Lobsters. These creatures, they've been around over 350 million years, way before dinosaurs.
And they show clear status-seeking behavior. Scientists have even mapped their nervous systems, which are relatively simple, and found that, brains and nervous systems were processing status stuff long, long before humans even existed.
So this isn't just like capitalism or some modern invention. It's ancient.
Deeply ancient, an evolutionary reality. And it connects directly to our own neurochemistry.
Oh, so?
Well, low-ranking lobsters, they tend to have lower serotonin levels, just like humans often do in similar situations.
Okay.
And that translates to, less confidence, a stronger stress response, even shorter lifespans in the lobsters.
Huh. And the high-status ones.
Higher serotonin, more confidence, calmer, better able to, plan for the long term. The parallels are really striking.
So standing up straight isn't just sit up straight.
Not at all. It's more metaphysical almost.
Yeah.
It's about accepting the burden of being, as the author calls it, voluntarily facing challenges.
Okay.
Occupying your own space, your territory, both literally and, symbolically, not shrinking away.
And this connects to broader patterns too, right? Like the Pareto principle.
Exactly. The source brings in Price's law, the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, essentially.
Yeah, familiar with that.
It shows how unequal distribution isn't just human, it's everywhere. Scientific papers publish, wealth, city sizes, even word frequency and language.
Oh.
A small percentage accounts for a huge share. It's presented as a fundamental, almost near-eternal aspect of the environment, not just a product of, say, capitalism or patriarchy.
Wow. Okay. That really sets a broad stage, which leads nicely into Rule 2. Treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping.
This one can feel a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah, because honestly, don't we often struggle with that? We might be nicer, more helpful to other people, even our pets.
Than to ourselves,
Yeah.
exactly. The source suggests this paradox often comes from a really deep-seated self-contempt.
Self-contempt. Why?
Well, because we are just so aware of our own flaws, our
Mhm.
secret transgressions, insufficiencies, and inadequacies, as the text puts it.
Nobody knows you like you know you.
Precisely. And that knowledge can make us feel, well, undeserving of proper care, like we're punishing ourselves almost.
And linked to this, the source makes a really bold claim about pain. Subjective pain.
Yeah, this is a powerful point. It says subjective pain is so real, no argument can stand against it. It's the irreducible truth of being.
Meaning, my own feeling of suffering is the most real thing.
To you, yes, more undeniable, more fundamental than any objective fact you could argue about. You just cannot argue away your own pain.
That reframes things.
And it ties into this contrast the source draws between the scientific world of matter, objective reality, and the world of experience,
The world of experience.
which is described as being more like a drama, a story, made up of chaos, order, and consciousness, our lived reality.
Okay.
And this is where the darker side of human nature comes in, our unique ability for real malevolence, to make things worse voluntarily.
Not just accidentally, but on purpose.
Exactly. The source even mentions ancient Mesopotamian myths where humanity was made from the blood of Tiamat, a chaos monster. This idea that we have chaos, potential for evil, baked into us, and knowing that makes us doubt our own value.
So if we feel that self-contempt, how do we actually do Rule 2? How do we practice this self-care?
Well, the advice is surprisingly practical sometimes. Simple routines can make a huge difference.
Like what?
Things like having a consistent wake-up time, eating a good breakfast, specifically one heavy in fat and protein, especially if you're prone to anxiety or depression.
Really? Breakfast matters that much?
The source argues it stabilizes blood sugar and sets a foundation. It uses this analogy of feedback loops, like audio feedback at a concert.
That awful screeching sound.
Yeah. Bad habits, it argues, can create these negative feedback loops. Think alcohol addiction or agoraphobia. Small deviations get amplified, spiraling downwards. Good routines can create positive loops instead.
Okay, building stability.
And there's this really striking example it gives about organ transplant recipients. A surprising number of people who get a life-saving organ transplant, they don't take their anti-rejection medication properly.
What? Why wouldn't they?
It seems to illustrate this profound self-neglect, maybe even self-punishment, a deep feeling of being undeserving, even of life itself. It's quite shocking, but it highlights the depth of this challenge.
Wow, okay. Moving on to Rule 3 then. Make friends with people who want the best for you.
This one starts with an anecdote about the author's experience growing up in a small, isolated town in northern Canada, Fairview, Alberta.
A tough environment, sounds like.
Very much so. And the point is that sometimes to escape old, limiting patterns to make new, better ruts, you actually need to leave parts of your past behind, including some people.
That can be hard.
Incredibly hard. And it leads into this really tragic story about a childhood friend, Chris.
Chris!
Yeah, someone who, according to the source, had this deep self-contempt and just couldn't seem to choose friends who would help him climb out of it. He ended up on a really self-destructive, nihilistic path.
And there was a quote from him.
A really telling one. He apparently sought out friends, quote, anyone with enough self-contempt that they could forgive me mine.
Oof. That's bleak. Surrounding yourself with people who validate your worst self.
Exactly. Which is why the source draws this sharp distinction between loyalty and, well, stupidity.
Ah, explain that.
Loyalty isn't the same as blindly supporting someone no matter what. Friendship is described as a reciprocal arrangement.
A two-way street.
Right. And you are, quote, not morally obliged to support someone who is making the world a worse place, even if they're your friend.
Okay, that's a tough line, but I see the point.
So the broader concept is to consciously choose friends who support your upward aim.
People pulling you up, not down.
Precisely. Friends who won't just put up with your cynicism or destructive habits. They'll actually encourage you when you're doing well, and just as importantly, they'll carefully challenge you when you're messing up.
Holding you accountable in a supportive way.
Yeah, it helps bolster your own resolve, stops you from being dragged down, and maybe even prevents others from getting jealous if you start to succeed.
That makes sense. Which kind of flows into Rule 4.
Yeah.
Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today.
Yes. And this one starts with a really crucial dose of hope.
Which is?
The past is fixed. Done. Can't change it. But the future? The future, it could be better. That possibility is always there.
Okay. Focusing on potential change.
Exactly. And a key part of this is learning how to negotiate with yourself.
Negotiate with myself. How?
Using your internal critic, but not to just beat yourself up.
All right.
Use it to pinpoint one small thing, just one thing you could set in order today, something you could actually do voluntarily without resentment.
Okay. Small steps.
And the source describes this inner self you're negotiating with as potentially lazy, touchy, resentful, and hard to get along with.
Ah, sounds familiar.
So you need, quote, a little charm and playfulness. Be kind, but firm with yourself, like coaxing a difficult toddler almost.
Okay, I get that. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for helping. Again.
Yeah, connects, yeah. And then comes this really profound idea. What you aim at determines what you see.
Okay, unpack that. What you aim at determines what you see.
It draws on work by cognitive psychologists like Daniel Simons. Remember those experiments on sustained inattentional blindness?
Vaguely. The gorilla.
The gorilla. People watch a video, count basketball passes, and completely miss a person in a gorilla suit walking through the middle of the scene.
Because they're focused elsewhere.
Exactly. Or another one where the person giving directions behind a counter is swapped out mid-conversation and the asker doesn't even notice. You literally do not perceive what you are not aiming at.
Wow. So our focus shapes our reality in a very real sense.
That's the argument. So if you consciously let go of maybe narrow, fixed ambitions and truly decide you want things to be better, even if you don't know exactly what better looks like yet, you start to open yourself up. You might see possibilities you were blind to before. A whole new world of possibility, the source says. You'll start to slowly see what is better once you have truly decided to want it.
So the change starts with the aim, with the intention.
That's the core message. Reshape your aim, reshape your perception, reshape your future.
Okay. Powerful stuff. Let's move to Rule 5. Do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them.
Right. This one can definitely ruffle some feathers, especially for parents.
I can imagine. Disliking your own kids.
Well, the source uses these really vivid anecdotes, like a screaming child terrorizing an airport gate, or a toddler completely controlling dinner guests, or another micromanaged into helplessness.
Okay, yeah, we've probably all seen versions of that.
And these are presented as examples of too much chaos breeding too much order, where excessive permissiveness, trying to avoid any conflict, actually ends up creating more suffering and less real freedom for everyone.
How did chaos breed order in that way?
Well, the lack of boundaries creates chaos, and then often the reaction is either complete capitulation or eventually maybe overly harsh correction. It's unstable. And the source uses the Sleeping Beauty fairy tale as an analogy here.
Sleeping Beauty, how does that fit?
The king and queen try to protect her from everything, shield her from all danger, specifically the prophecy about the spindle.
Right.
But that overprotection leaves her naive, weak, unable to cope. When she finally encounters the sharp edge of reality, she chooses unconsciousness over the terror of adult life. She falls asleep.
Sheltering kids too much leaves them unprepared.
Profoundly unprepared. It argues that avoiding all fear and pain is actually harmful in the long run.
And this connects to something even darker, about human nature.
Yeah, it draws this stark parallel with chimpanzee behavior, their intertribal warfare, their brutality.
Which isn't caused by human society.
Exactly. The source argues human societies and their complex technologies cannot be blamed for that. It suggests there's a capacity for aggression and malevolence that's inherent and needs to be managed through socialization and self-control, something we often overestimate our ability to do without structure.
Which brings us to the parent's role.
Right. The primary duty, according to the source, is to make your children socially desirable.
Socially desirable. Why that phrasing?
Because after about age 4, peers are the primary source of socialization. Kids learn crucial social skills from other kids.
Okay.
If a child is unsocialized, aggressive, annoying, unable to play properly, other kids will reject them. Adults might tolerate it, but kids won't.
And that leads to?
Loneliness, becoming antisocial, maybe depressed. The source really emphasizes that much of our sanity is a consequence of our fortunate immersion in a social community. It takes a village, or at least peer interaction, to raise a well-adjusted person.
So discipline comes into play here, and this is where it gets really controversial, talking about physical punishment.
It does tackle it directly. The argument isn't for abuse, obviously, but it says some misbehavior must be stopped immediately and effectively for safety reasons.
Like running into the street.
Exactly. Or sticking a fork in an electrical socket. The argument is that minimal, necessary force used judiciously might prevent much greater harm down the road. Punishment involves pain, yes, but the goal is maximum learning, minimum cost. And the costs of not socializing escalate dramatically as kids get older.
And this isn't just about kids, is it? The idea of necessary boundaries, even anger.
Right. The source suggests that anger, while dangerous if uncontrolled, is also necessary. It allows us to push back against being taken advantage of, against oppression, to speak truth.
Even for nice people.
Especially for people who tend to be compassionate and self-sacrificing. Learning to stand up for yourself, using anger appropriately, protects you and prevents society from becoming corrupt or stagnant.
Okay. Let's shift gears to Rule 7. Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient.
A really central one. And it uses the story of Cain and Abel to illustrate the point.
Right, the biblical story. Cain's sacrifice is rejected, Abel's is accepted.
And Cain's reaction isn't just disappointment, it's jealousy, bitterness, resentment, leading ultimately to murder.
And the point is
that this kind of reaction, this human evil, adds a whole new dimension of misery to the world. It goes beyond just the inherent tragedies of life, sickness, death, natural disasters. This is chosen malevolence.
And it stems from that feeling of rejected sacrifice, or things not going your way.
The source describes it as a downward spiral. You make a sacrifice, maybe begrudgingly, half-heartedly undertaken. It gets rejected, or seems to be. You feel angry resentment. That turns into bitterness, desire for revenge.
And that path leads where?
Quote, spiraling into hell itself. It's a strong metaphor for the destructive path of resentment and expediency over meaning.
So the alternative is pursuing meaning, even when it's hard. And Socrates is the example here.
Yes, Socrates facing his death sentence in Athens. He had chances to escape, to compromise his principles, but he chose not to.
He chose meaning over expediency, even death over a compromised life.
Exactly. He saw it as maintaining his pursuit of the true and the meaningful. The source suggests he even viewed death then as a kind of gift, letting him put his affairs in order, avoid decrepitude, and stay true to his aims.
Wow. So living truthfully, courageously, it offers its own kind of security.
That's the argument. It provides more security and strength than will be offered by any short-sighted concentration on your own safety.
And this connects back to that idea of human evil.
Yes, there's this unsettling insight. How do we know how to hurt others? Because we understand our own pain, our own vulnerabilities, our own capacity for malevolence. Evil enters the world with self-consciousness, the source states. Knowing how you could be hurt tells you how to hurt someone else.
That's a sobering thought. Okay, Rule 8, tell the truth, or at least don't lie.
And this starts by distinguishing real therapy from just giving advice.
How so?
True psychotherapy, it suggests, is genuine conversation. It involves exploration, articulation, and strategizing. Deep listening is key.
Not just telling someone what to do.
Right. And this ties into the danger of the life lie.
The life lie, what's that?
It's described as this fundamental attempt to manipulate reality with deceit, based on this arrogant assumption that you know better, that your current knowledge is sufficient, and that reality itself is flawed and needs your manipulation to be bearable.
Like playing God with the truth.
Kind of. The source links this prideful stance to figures like Milton's Satan in Paradise Lost, preferring to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Choosing your own distorted reality over truth.
And it's not just active lying, is it? It's also about not speaking up.
Exactly. Sins of omission.
Yeah.
Allowing bad things to happen, staying silent when you know something is wrong. The source argues this is just as serious as actively doing wrong.
Because silence enables the bad stuff.
It does, and it illustrates this with a workplace example. Going along with some pointless new bureaucratic rule, it's stupid. Each small act of complicity, of not speaking the truth, contributes to bureaucratic stagnation and oppression. It makes the whole system a little more corrupt, and you train yourself to accept lies. On a larger scale, this fuels societal corruption.
So truth-telling is almost disruptive.
It often is, which is why the source quotes Christ from the Gospel of Matthew. I came not to send peace, but a sword.
The sword of truth.
That's the symbolism. Truth cuts through deception, it creates conflict, it challenges comfortable lies, but it's necessary for genuine order to emerge.
And there's an Egyptian myth mentioned too.
Horus and Osiris. Horus, the sun, representing the attentive present, uses his own eye, sacrifices his vision to restore the sight of his father, Osiris, who represents tradition, the wisdom of the past.
So the present needs to revitalize the past with attention and truth.
That's the metaphor. Paying attention, speaking truthfully, revitalizes dead or dying structures, leaving things vague, hidden, unspoken. That leads to decay. Things fall apart.
And ignoring reality has consequences.
Absolutely. If you don't believe in brick walls, you will still be injured when you run headlong into one. You can curse reality, but the wall is still there. Precise, honest speech is presented as the tool we use to navigate reality, to bring order out of chaos.
Okay. Rule 9. Assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't.
This really emphasizes the power and difficulty of genuine listening.
And it mentions Carl Rogers.
Yeah, the great psychotherapist. He apparently said that really listening is too dangerous for most people.
Dangerous. Why?
Because it requires courage. You might have to change your own mind if you truly understand someone else's perspective. Rogers even suggested a technique.
Which was?
In a disagreement, you have to be able to state the other person's position back to them, to their satisfaction, before you're even allowed to present your own case.
Wow. That would change most arguments.
Wouldn't it? And the source also touches on memory here. It's not just a passive recording device.
No. What is it then?
It's described more as a tool. Its purpose is to help you stop the same damn thing from happening over and over. It's functional, helping you learn from the past to guide future action. So understanding someone else's story, their memory, helps understand their actions.
And thinking itself, is it also conversational?
That's the idea presented. True thinking isn't just linear logic, it's more like an internal dialogue. A debate between at least two people or different perspectives within your own mind.
Internal avatars, sort of.
Yeah, and that requires tolerance for conflict, willingness to question your own premises. It's not just about proving yourself right internally.
Which leads to this really fascinating concept about sanity.
Right. The idea that much of what we consider healthy mental function is the result of our ability to use the reactions of others to keep our complex selves functional.
So, we need other people to stay sane.
In a way, yes. We outsource the problem of our sanity. It takes a village to organize a mind. We use social feedback to regulate ourselves.
And conversation is key to that.
Crucial. The source contrasts genuine, sympathetic conversations where someone tells their story and organizes their thoughts by telling it with other types, like just trying to win a dominance game or show off wit.
So storytelling is thinking out loud.
Often, yes. People organize their brains with conversation, it says. If they don't have anyone to tell their story to, they lose their minds. We're constantly broadcasting our expectations of the ideal to each other and subtly correcting each other towards it.
Wow. Okay, let's jump to Rule 11. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding.
This one dives into risk, mastery, and the dangers of overprotection.
Skateboarding as the example.
Yeah, the author observes skateboarders at the University of Toronto doing these difficult, dangerous-looking tricks on handrails and steps.
Pushing their limits.
Exactly. It illustrates this innate human drive to seek out challenges, to confront chaos voluntarily in order to gain competence and mastery.
And this is contrasted
with the trend of removing dangerous playground equipment, seesaws, high slides, merry-go-rounds, often out of fear of lawsuits, or just over-anxiety about safety.
So we're denying kids the chance to learn through managed risk.
That's the concern raised, and this connects to a broader critique, referencing George Orwell.
Orwell, how does he fit in?
From the Road to Wigan Pier. Orwell observed that some upper-class British socialists seemed to hate the rich more than they actually liked the poor. Their motivation was more resentment disguised as compassion.
Okay.
So the source poses the question. When someone proclaims loudly what they stand for, you should also ask, what, then, do you stand against? Look for the underlying motivation, which might be resentment or a desire to control rather than genuine care, especially when it involves restricting others' freedom to face challenges.
And this rule then gets into some really charged territory around gender.
It does. It addresses head-on the observation that young men seem to be struggling in modern society, falling behind educationally.
And it presents data on this.
Yes, citing data showing boys' interests tilting more towards things versus people, and importantly, that these kinds of differences appear most pronounced in societies that are the most gender egalitarian, like Scandinavia.
So more equality leads to bigger differences in some choices.
That's what the data suggests, according to the source. It makes the statement, this isn't a debate, the data are in. The implication is that ignoring these underlying realities in pursuit of forcing equal outcomes can be counterproductive, especially if it involves discouraging boys from engaging with challenging, thing-oriented activities like, well, skateboarding.
Okay. This extends to relationships and societal structures.
Yeah, it touches on marriage becoming more of a luxury item and suggests women often seek partners with higher status or income, presenting this as a rational choice given the vulnerability involved in child rearing.
And it offers counterexamples to the oppressive patriarchy idea.
Right. It brings up Arunachalam Muruganthamim in India, the tampon king, who worked against tradition to provide affordable sanitary pads, freeing women from significant hardship.
Oh.
Also mentions the adoption of anesthesia, which faced resistance but ultimately reduced suffering. The point seems to be that progress often comes from challenging existing structures, not just condemning them wholesale, and that patriarchy might be a simplistic lens for complex issues.
And there's a strong warning here about ideology.
A very strong one. Ideas have consequences. It uses the devastating example of Soviet collectivization, particularly the famine in Ukraine, Holodomor, that killed millions.
How is that connected?
It's presented as a catastrophic result of utopian ideology driven by resentment against the Kulak peasants and a denial of reality leading to mass suffering, a stark warning about forcing ideological blueprints onto complex human systems.
And this relates to the postmodern view on gender.
The source critiques the insistence within some postmodern thought that all gender differences are purely social constructs. It argues this stance isn't just academic, but serves as a justification for force, a rationale for compelling equal outcomes, even if it requires ignoring evidence or logic. It contends this often involves twisting logic to hide its true, potentially controlling aims.
And fairy tales come back here too.
Yes, Hansel and Gretel and the Little Mermaid are used to illustrate the Oedipal mother archetype.
A what?
The overprotective, devouring mother figure who smothers independence prevents the child, often the son in these stories, from facing the world, from developing consciousness and strength. She keeps them dependent, weak.
Like the opposite of letting kids skateboard.
Exactly. And contrasted with that is the Charles Atlas story.
The old comic book ads. The insult that made a man out of Mac.
That's the one. It's presented as illustrating this male drive to respond to challenge, to insult, by toughening up, by identifying with the part of yourself that can overcome, that can become the hero. Voluntarily confronting the dragon, essentially.
Okay, and the rule concludes with a really provocative statement.
It does. If you think tough men are dangerous, wait until you see what weak men are capable of.
Wow. That's quite a closer for that section. It really emphasizes the potential downsides of discouraging strength and competence.
It certainly does. It argues that weakness, resentment, and the inability to face challenges can be far more destructive in the long run.
All right. Let's move to the final rule, Rule 12. Pet a cat when you encounter one on the street.
A seemingly simple one, but it goes deep into suffering and limitation.
And it touches on personal experience.
Yes, the author speaks about his daughter, Mikhaila's severe chronic health problems, years of pain, difficult diagnoses, surgeries.
And the point is
that even when catastrophe hits, the demands of everyday life don't stop. Life goes on, bills need paying, other responsibilities continue, suffering is real, often unavoidable, and part of the package.
And this ties into Superman.
Yeah, it's a fascinating analogy. Superman, the source says, became boring when he became too powerful, basically invincible.
He could do anything.
Right. A superhero who can do anything turns out to be no hero at all. He's nothing specific, so he's nothing.
Because there's no struggle, no challenge.
Exactly. And this illustrates a profound idea. Being of any reasonable sort appears to require limitation. Our limits, our weaknesses, even our suffering, they are what give us shape, definition, meaning. Without limits, we're just potential, formless.
So limitations aren't just bad things. They're necessary for being itself.
That's the core insight. So in the face of that necessary limitation, that inevitable suffering, what do?
Pet the cat.
Pet the cat. The anecdote about Ginger the Siamese cat is a reminder to notice the small wonders, the moments of grace, the beauty that still exists alongside the suffering. To recognize that The wonder of being might make up for the ineradicable suffering that accompanies it, even if just for a moment.
Finding respite in the small things.
Yes, and it connects to this powerful piece of wisdom about grief.
Which is?
Aim to be the person at your father's funeral that everyone in their grief and misery can rely on.
To be the strong one in the crisis.
Exactly. It frames strength in the face of adversity as a truly worthy goal. Not wishing suffering away because you can't, but developing the strength to withstand it, even to be helpful to others within it.
That's a very different kind of ambition.
Very different from just seeking happiness or avoiding trouble.
So wrapping this all up,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway for you, the listener, from these 12 rules?
Well, it's important to remember they aren't just, arbitrary dictates. They're presented as principles distilled from millennia of human wisdom, mythology, religion, psychology, history.
A kind of condensed guide to navigating the human condition.
Yeah, a framework for trying to live a meaningful life. And the path forward, woven through all the rules, really emphasizes living truthfully.
Rule 8.
Taking responsibility for yourself, your flaws, your contribution to the chaos.
Rule 2, Rule 7.
And consciously aiming for something higher. The source uses terms like the good, the beautiful, and the true, continuously trying to bring a little more order out of the chaos, starting with yourself.
And there's a final call to reflection. Something for you to actively do.
Yes. The source poses this profound challenge. Write down the words you want inscribed on your soul.
What does that mean?
Like, define your highest values. How do you really want to act? The author offers his own reflections. How should one treat their spouse, their children, their parents, strangers, someone who has fallen, a nation in turmoil, even God?
Actively defining your own principles.
And committing to them, making them conscious, aiming at them.
Which leads to the final thought of the book.
A really compelling one. There is no enlightened one. There is only the one who is seeking further enlightenment.
So it's not a destination you arrive at?
No. Proper being is presented as a process, not a state, a journey. It's about constantly transforming what you know by encountering what you don't know.
Embracing your insufficiency.
Exactly. Recognizing it, accepting it not as a final failure, but as the starting point for continuous rectification, for learning and growing. It's ongoing. Painful, certainly, the source concludes, but it's a good deal. The struggle towards meaning, towards bringing order from chaos, is presented as the best deal life has to offer.